All right, we're very, very close to the end. I'm going to show you some more little cool techniques before we move on to bar chords, which will be a fun module. And I know that you're going to get a lot out of it. And I know that you're probably itching at the bit to get there. But hey, let's learn some more cool stuff before we get on to a bit more advanced chord playing. Right, so today we're going to talk about power chords and octaves and harmonics and open tunings. All good things, all good fun things. Power chords are the precursor to bar chords. They are used a lot in rock. They're used a lot in everything. They are fun, they are easy to play, and especially when your fingers are getting really sore, it's awesome just to play around with it. Now, we spoke about a chord triad when I was talking about chords, and basically a power chord is a fifth chord. So you're just removing the third note of that chord to come up with what they call the fifth. So if it says C fifth, E fifth, A fifth, that's what it means. And this is how you do them. So we've got our normal chords, right? Now let's start with, we know the names of the frets up to the fifth fret. We're going to go with the G. Now to do a G fifth, this is what we do. We put our first finger on the G, whatever note we're playing, and the next string down, we go 2 frets up, so we'll put it on the fifth. That's the G chord. This is the G fifth. Cool? If I get rid of the third, which is the B, that's what we're playing. I just showed you an octave. We'll get to that in a second. So that's all it is. Now you can use your pinky finger for that. Strengthen that up. I use my pinky finger a lot, just due to that my hands are a little bit smaller than most people's. I'm carny. What do you expect? And yeah, use your third. Use your pinky. I just find that more comfortable. Way with power chords is that it teaches you where up and down the fretboard a bar chord will start. So it also teaches you, see, we got up to the 5th fret, and if we kept on going, you could probably pretty well figure out all the notes up to there. But that's okay. I've got you a diagram to help you out with that. So another fun way to do with power chords is to add the octave. And I said the octave before. Now the octave, there's 8th note from the root note. So again with the G is the 5th fret on the D string, right? And it's just the low note to the higher note up. Cool? That's it. So the way to do an octave on a guitar is, like I've shown you, with the low E string, you get the first whatever root note you're using, and you go 2 frets up and 2 strings down, so like a little box. And if you do it with the A string, it's exactly the same. Being careful not to hit any other strings except those 2 that you're playing. And that's an octave. Now if you can combine the octave with the power chord, the 5th, it sounds even better. Power chords are fun. Great way for you to learn where to put your fingers in relation to a bar chord. So if it says, an A, if you need to do an A power chord, oh, you hear that? It was like Elvis. An A power chord is from the A. A B would be from the 7th on the E, or the 2nd on the A. Now they have slightly different tonal qualities due to the strings and the way that the strings are made and their tensions and how thick they are. So have fun with power chords. Power chords are super fun. And as I said with palm muting, chuck them in as well. So much fun to play around with. Add this to your practice again. Practice plan, we'll have it in there as well. And the practice plan, at this stage, we're sort of just mucking around, having a good time, really just sort of adding on to what we've done with the day 1 to 5, and we're throwing in these new techniques for, you know, a bit of a laugh. It's great. Right, harmonics. Harmonics we learned a little bit about when we did the tuning. And if you recall, harmonics are really, really fun. What they essentially are is that they're amplifying a specific overtone of a string, or they're preventing a specific overtone of a string, depending on how you want it to sound. So harmonics start usually, when you learn them, on the 12th fret. Now you hear that, open to 12th. And what I'm doing there is just touching the top of it, like really just touching the top of it. So awesome fun for ending a song with, and it's a cool way to throw in when you're playing chords if it's in that key. So the main frets that we use harmonics on are the 12th, the 9th, the 7th, the 5th, and the 3rd. And they get harder to get to make sound amazing the further down the fretboard we get. 9 and 3, kind of not that great. Have fun with that, play around with it, and practice this because it's good for when you're tuning. See? Do that a lot, and you'll hear when things aren't working so well. Harmonics are good fun. So if we're feeling like ending on an A minor, and that's the way we finish up on a harmonic. Why not? Just throw it in there. Tommy Emmanuel uses them a lot. A few other guitarists in metal as well. They have what's called artificial harmonics, which I won't talk about. I will talk about because I've already brought it up. Why not? And what they do is, the way we hold a pick normally between your fingers is they kind of get their thumb in around a little bit, so it's when you're hitting a string. I don't know if you can hear that. It's hard to hear. Can you hear that overtone that's in there? That's what an artificial harmonic is. It's not real, but if it's all distorted up and it's amazing, like, here's an example. That's an artificial harmonic. Cool. Right, harmonics are cool. So are open tunings and drop D. Now drop D tuning you'll hear a lot in grunge music, and what drop D is, you get the low E string and you drop it down to the D. So you hear that? That's my capo was having a bit of a wig out there. Alright, so as we've got, tuned it down, and it's dropped at 2 frets. So if you wanted to play like a normal E minor chord, you'll have to put your 3 fingers on like that. And what a drop D tuning is also really useful for is basically cheating with your power chords. You just use 1 finger. So because you've dropped 2 frets, remember how we did say 3rd and then the 5th? That's not how it works. We've dropped them, so you just move everything up 2 frets, and you want a power chord on this. That's a G power chord. E power chord. A D power chord is just open. Can have a whole bunch of fun with that. When you're writing songs, awesome way to get a really different sound out of it. The entire grunge era basically lived off the drop D, and it was sweet. Using 1 finger only, up and down. That's what drop D is. So if you see it says drop D in a tab or it says something else, that's what it means. But don't forget that if you do drop D, the whole string's gone down 2 frets. So you have to compensate for that. If you wanted to play a normal G string, normal G chord, it's vastly different. So a lot harder to get your head around. So much more fun if you just just using the bottom two. Have fun, punker. That's half the punk songs I ever wrote were in drop D, because they're easy. Anyway, open tunings. Now, I'm just going to tune down and show you what I mean by that. Right, so open tunings, I've got it in drop D. Now, let's go to, say, open G. Yeah, why not? So we know in a triad, the G is the G, D, and B. They're the three main notes. So what you want to do with open tunings is make all of the strings one of those notes of a triad. Now, there is a reference in the book about a whole bunch of different, very common open tunings, especially for the blues, which will come in very handy with the bonus lesson that's going to come up. Open tunings are super fun. You don't have to do this now. You can go back and have a look at this a bit later on. But, so in open tuning, we've got D. We're going to drop our high E down to D. So we've got D, B, G, G, B, D. Already sounds cool, right? So then we've got D, and we've got an A. So we're going to have to drop that down to a G as well. So it sounds something like that. The cool thing about this is, when you've got it in an open tuning, anywhere you put your one finger on that fretboard, it's going to sound great. So I hear you ask, I hear you tuning that B string. Now why didn't you get the A string up to B? Because you got G, B, D, and you got D, G, D. Where's the other B? That sort of comes into the thirds. So we know that power chords is using the fifth, and the fifth just sounds great. The third is just that extra little doover in there that kind of, yeah, well, it works. But harmoniously speaking, for Western culture, and especially for us, it's sort of like it's that weird sort of note that goes in there. Now, great thing about open chords is just the one finger. Don't go into the theory of it. That's what it is. And when we start doing slide guitar, it's one finger. Put a slide on that, and that sounds really cool and bluesy. Again, I'll touch on that in the 12 bar blues bonus lesson that we've got happening. Open tunings are rad. John Butler Trio, yeah, so many blues songs. There is the Rolling Stones. They all use this stuff. So use the templates that are there, the guide in the book. It goes through all of the cool major ones that you can use. They are super fun again to play with. Again, as I keep saying, these are just tools to have in your back pocket. Get the fundamentals right and then add this to the tools that you've got, and you're going to be a super versatile guitarist. So another technique that we can do is called the hammer-on and the pull-off. Now the hammer-on and the pull-off kind of sound, it explains exactly what you're doing. With a hammer-on, it's really good for leads or solos. It's also really good for intros if you want to do some finger-picking stuff and adding some extra interest to it. So with a hammer-on, it is literally you hammer your finger onto the next fret, or whatever fret you want to do. In Tears in Heaven, they have it's pretty good. So the hammer-on, so you're hammering that finger onto that string, and you can do that all over the place. And a pull-off, hammer-ons can be really hard on your fingers. Pull-offs are a little bit easier. The pull-off is exactly what that is. You're pulling the finger off whatever fret it is that you are playing to the next one, or wherever it is you want to go to. A lot of the folky stuff, say John Butler Trio, or even crikey, there's so many of them. There's so many different types of people that do this because it's such a nice, effective trick. So yeah, hammer-ons kind of harsh on your fingers. Pull-offs are a little bit softer, but if you're using a steel string, it will be pretty coarse on your fingers anyway. Also in Tears in Heaven, you can combine them. So that's a little bit of a flourish on what it actually is. But if you put the two and two together, sounds really cool, yeah? Like it's a whole bunch of really quick notes in quick succession. This technique is really handy if you're playing, you know, some cool little folky country sort of stuff. Sounds awesome. Just adds that whole different dimension to whatever you're playing. And there's some songs that really call for it, and there's others that not so much. If you start writing your own tracks, this is a really good thing to have in your back pocket because it just adds interest to the chords that you're playing. So yeah, practice that if you want. If you can do it on one fret, especially if you're doing it down the first position frets, getting up the top here is a lot easier. There's a lot less tension up here on the 12th and so on and so forth. But just have a go, see how it works for you. Another technique to stick in the toolbox. Enjoy it. But be wary that it can be pretty heavy on your fingers. That's all I'm going to talk about that for now. What we're going to do is get into bar chords. Now, this is the pinnacle of this whole course. And I think you'll find it pretty challenging, but I know that you're going to have a great time doing it. Right. Now, if you don't want to go into bar chords straight away, that's fine. Go back and have a quick look at all this stuff, get the book out, play around with all these cool things, and have a great old time doing it. Have fun. The whole thing is meant to be for your enjoyment and for everyone else's enjoyment. If you're not having fun, no one else will. Go and play. Set forth and conquer. Go and detune and have a great old time. Remember, try not to up-tune because it puts more pressure on the strings. Try and detune because it's just easier on the strings and easier on you. Right, cool. Have a great old time. I'll see you on the bar chord module.